Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dover, the famous key to England. The shortest distance between England and Europe. France is just 30 kilometers or 20 miles in that direction. On a clear day, the white cliffs of Dover can look straight into the eyes of the white cliffs of Calais. The Opal Coast, or Côte d'Opale to be more precise for my French audience. Today we have a very important mission: to visit probably the most representative church in Dover, alongside a very old Roman lighthouse that's almost 2000 years old. But for this we have to get on top of these cliffs, and there's only one way to do this. We have to take the ladder. But first, in today's world, Dover is probably the biggest and the busiest ferry port in Europe. The pride of England. A major destination for cruise liners. A very popular place. That's because we've all heard of Dover. However, not too long ago, this place used to be Britain's military fortress against the French. At the same time, during both World Wars, this place used to be a vital defensive point, sheltering hundreds, if not thousands of soldiers, either British or from the Allied forces. It's my first time here, and by the looks of it, the level of the water, or at least the waves, are rising. And I'm not really sure if our ladder is in danger or not, but I don't want to be left stranded on this shore, so I guess it's time to move on. Alright, we've made it. Now, let's go on the ladder and get on top of these cliffs and continue our story. As you can see, these cliffs are white. I believe they are made of chalk, and I'll tell you more about this in a minute, but they are massive, absolutely massive, and they stretch along the coast of Dover, very far away. The view from up here, it's fantastic. We've made it. So I was telling you about the white cliffs, which are basically made of chalk, and as you can see here, it says that when you look at the chalk, you are looking at fossils, but you can't see most of them because they are microscopic. And just for you to make an idea how low we were on this cliff, or otherwise said, how tall these cliffs are, I think we are at the middle of our road until the top, and look how far we are from the shore. It's not that easy. It's quite steep. Plus, this path is not really straight, but obviously you can't ask for more because the views from downstairs are absolutely amazing, so it's worth it. What I like about this place is that along your path there are also information written that you might need or you might want to know. And what I find interesting is that, for example, it says here that the highest sea levels seen on Earth, that was long time ago obviously, somehow was around 200-300 meters above those of today, which is 2 to 3 times higher than this white cliffs of Dover. So basically what they're saying here is that the chalk that you see, or the remaining chalk from these cliffs, were formed when the sea levels were that high, 200-300 meters. And here it says, it tells you what the chalk is made of the remainings of microscopic single-celled algae plants that once floated in an ancient tropical sea somewhere millions of years ago. In a way or another, we can say that the remainings, the white cliffs of Dover, are million years old, or some parts of it. Obviously this place is massive, absolutely massive, so it's full of fossils and all sorts of remainings from those times. And believe it or not, back in the day, Dover was always an important place for whoever ruled this land. No matter the eras, no matter the kingdom, no matter the times. The Bronze Age, for example, was a period that spanned between the years 3000 BC and 1200 BC. Can you imagine? More than 3000 years ago. And of course, it was a prehistoric era that was characterized by the creation of, you guessed it, bronze, an alloy made of copper and tin. And in 1992, the oldest known seagoing vessel in the world was discovered in Dover, which dates back to roughly 3,500 years. I believe a part of it, of almost 10 meters or 32 feet, was recovered, and it is now displayed in the Dover Museum. During the Iron Age, which was a period span between 1200 BC and 500 BC, an era marked by the widespread adoption of iron and steel, mainly to be used in weaponry and agricultural tools. Britons were already living in Dover. In a document called Archaeology of Dover that dates back to September 2025, which I believe was issued by the Dover District Council, they mapped the full town, they mapped the Dover town in 23 zones. They split it into 23 zones for future archaeological discoveries. That's why we know these things, that's why these things are well known nowadays. So from the Iron Age, they discovered different tools and fragments of pottery. I believe also in the city center, in the Dover city center, they've discovered some Iron Age roundhouses. And apparently, Dover Castle was built on top of an Iron Age hill fort. I'm literally standing on top of a hill full of chalk. As you can see, it's white as it can be. And again, look how tall this cliff is. Now let's talk about Cantiaci, the famous tribe called Cantiaci, which settled in this area somewhere between 150 BC and 5 BC. During the pre-Roman times, this whole place was full of British Celtic tribes, and Cantiaci was one of them that decided to stay or to settle here in the southern of Britain. I believe Julius Caesar said something along the lines of, those who dwell in Kent are by far the most civilized, or something like that. And in case you don't know yet, Dover is in Kent, a territory that used to be occupied by the Cantiaci tribe. And because we talked about them on this channel in previous videos, I believe you already know what happened with them, but more on that later. Now, the Roman era in Dover starts with the famous Roman Emperor Julius Caesar. As you know already, he tried to invade Britain twice, in two instances, in 55 BC and 54 BC. And I've made a video specifically about this topic. In fact, it's the first video on this channel, and I highly encourage you to watch that as well, so you can understand better how the Romans arrived in Britain and how they took control of all this territory. Now future discoveries might change the course of the history. I'm sure you are well aware of this by now. But as of today, it is a widely acceptable idea that the Romans did not enslave the Cantiaci tribe. Instead, they used them in different jobs. Basically, they assimilated them and they used them as a key labor. This is how the Cantiaci tribe was able to fully integrate into that in that period in the Roman Empire. The Romans occupied Dover for almost 450 years. During that time, during the Roman time, this place was called Dubris, and it was a vital military point and a very busy port, just like it is nowadays. I'm looking at a very big ferry. I can see it from here. It's actually huge. Not sure if you can see it properly because of the sun, but it's absolutely massive. I'm basically on top of a hill in the middle of nowhere, and I came here to talk about the history of Dover, but straight away these white cliffs of Dover and the whole landscape is absolutely breathtaking. This place covered 5 hectares or 50,000 square meters. However, in comparison with Londinium, it wasn't a big place, because during the Roman times, Londinium was 60 square meters, so 600 square meters. Over the years, there have been found 60 sites here in Dover that are full of Roman artifacts. Majority of them consists of tools, objects of pottery, weapons, and things like that. But what's fascinating and representative for our story was that in Dover, originally called Dubris during the Roman times, 2 lighthouses have been built somewhere between 46 AD and 50 AD during the reign of the famous Roman Emperor Claudius. And one of them is still standing, and we are going to check it out. As I mentioned to you, or not, I'm not sure, the church sits in the same hill or courtyard as the castle, and I'll tell you more about it in a bit. I just arrived, and wow, look at that. This is actually very impressive. Wow. This is St. Mary in Castro Church. tell you more about it once that we are here. It's very windy. I was expecting this, but some places are not that windy, so hopefully you'll be able to hear me well. It's quite a big one, honestly. Probably the windows are original, considering how they look, or at least some of them. Initially, in the 1st century or 2nd century, the Romans built a fort or a fortified settlement on top of this hill, right where the actual Dover castle sits, because they understood the importance of this place for this area. They've also built this lighthouse almost 2000 years ago. Next, the Anglo-Saxons, when they arrived, they built a burg on top of this hill, and according to some very, very old records, very old Anglo-Saxon records, a church pre-St. Mary in Castro Church was built by the Anglo-Saxons, and it's not hard to imagine, considering that Anglo-Saxons across England, they've built dozens, if not hundreds of churches during their reign. So apparently the church that I'm talking about was built at the request of Edbald in 630s, the King Edbald of Kent. And we talked about him when we visited St. Martin's Church in Canterbury. He is the son of King Ethelbert and Queen Bertha, the famous Queen Bertha. And there's also a cemetery somewhere around here that suggests the existence of this very, very old church exactly on this place. However, St. Mary in Castro Church was built by the Anglo-Saxons around the year 1000. It is one of the fewest churches with a lighthouse, as you can imagine, and definitely the oldest of all, the oldest church with a lighthouse in the world. And apparently Roman tiles can be seen in the church fabric, mainly around window arches. These two are a great example of that one and this one, as you can see, Roman tiles, and also flint and tile from the lighthouse can be seen throughout the church's walls. You can also see the construction of the tower. Some Roman tiles have been used there, or not, maybe, but I can see the same color of tiles from the window arches, so that suggests that in the building of this tower have been used some Roman tiles as well. Also this one, this side right here, has a great example of Roman tiles. These red tiles that you can see along the walls. are wondering, the church was built before the castle. Saint Mary in Castro Church was built around the year 1000 by Anglo-Saxons, while Dover Castle, which is there in the distance, was built at the request of King Henry II between 1179 and 1189. When it comes about the lighthouse, there were only 2 Roman lighthouses built in Dover, and this one right here is the only one standing. In fact, it's the only Roman lighthouse still standing in the whole Britain. It was built during the reign of the Roman Emperor Claudius between 46 AD and 50 AD. So it's almost 2000 years old. And although now it only stands at 19 meters, which I believe it's around 62 or 63 feet, when it was built, the whole structure was 24 meters or 79 feet. Now maybe this is not that obvious nowadays, but initially it was built in an octagonal shape on the outside, so 8 sides, and inside I heard, we'll see when we get there, but I heard that it's in a form of a square, or at least originally was designed to be a square inside. So 8 sides outside, although as you can see after so many years it's not that obvious anymore, and inside 4 sides. Initially it was built to guide the ships through English Channel, or how it used to be called back then, Oceanus Britannicus. And it has a similar shape with other lighthouses in the form that it narrows towards the top, which is pretty standard for the lighthouses, if you ask me. It is said that the Romans would have used fire to light up the lighthouse. This is why you will see that the remainings of what it used to be a wooden staircase can still be seen. Wow, it's impressive actually. It's massive. Absolutely massive. Yeah, so apparently there was a platform there, and the Romans used fire. And as you can see, there are some shapes in the wall, maybe here, and that one, and that one. So this whole place would have had a wooden staircase up to the top. And you can see how thick the walls are. Maybe the light is not the best, doesn't do justice, but this is massive. Now, of course, the top is gone, as I mentioned. But the walls, look at this, this is almost 1 meter wide. I'm not sure exactly what it used to be here. You can still see the original structure, which in time obviously it looks rough, but still. So as you can see, this is a square. This is a shape of a square. This one as well, and this one. So as mentioned, maybe in order for the structure, the whole structure, to be more solid, they decided the interior to be square. I'm not sure what was the reason, or actually, if I think about it now, I believe the whole stair system, it's easier to be built up to the top when it comes about the square shape, the interior of a lighthouse with a square shape. Yeah, that must be actually. So the church is right there, as you can see. There are evidences here that this lighthouse have been repaired, beside the fact that some parts of these walls, if not almost all, lost their, let's say, color or consistency, which is normal in 2000 years, as you can imagine. But I believe in the 15th century, yeah, I believe around 15th century, this lighthouse was used as a belfry, which means that for a while this lighthouse used to have the bells from the church. So the church decided to put the bells in this lighthouse for a while. Now, of course, they are not here anymore, but yeah, I believe in the 15th century the bells of the church were here. It's actually very impressive that it's still standing, if you ask me, after so many years. You can see the Roman tiles that shape up the door, which is massive for that time, and very thick walls, as you can see. From there up until here, this one is basically the wall, this whole structure. Thousand years old. I'm amazed actually by these stones. I'm not really sure what are they, but they seem to have a different consistency. Even their color is different. I'm not, you know, I'm not so knowledgeable when it comes about these structures, but something tells me that some of the stones from here or tiles were different than the others, although I'm sure all of them are Romans by the looks of it, considering how they look. Rough and old, but still standing after so many years. You can see this side, this is one side, this one is another one, this side is another one. As I mentioned to you, there were 8 sides here. This one more side. Yeah, so in total 8 sides, an octagonal shape on the exterior. as I mentioned previously, the lighthouse had the church's bells for 300 years, up until 18th century. That's why the top of the lighthouse, as you can imagine, was modified and looks a bit more modern, more medieval in comparison of the whole Roman structure. So as you can see, the connection or the interconnection between the lighthouse and the church is so close and at the same time so old, because for more than 1000 years the Roman lighthouse and St. Mary in Castro Church have been here together. Okay, now let's go and see the church, St. Mary in Castro Church. A huge bell that dates, I believe, 1639, as you can see here. Some very old pictures of the church. Initially, as you can see, the church looked like this when these pictures were taken. If I can read this, it's 1890. So these pictures are from 130 years ago. The church looked the church was in a bad shape actually, and clearly now it was reconditioned, but I can see in the windows the Roman tiles that I told you there as well. You can see the red tiles on the left side and on the right side. Then this is a very old window, so it doesn't look like it was restored. I think this is the original window of the church, I believe. Then on that side again we have red tiles on the left and on the right. This is basically the tower. We are under the tower, to say so. And what strikes me actually from outside is more obvious, is that the height of the tower in comparison with the transepts, as you know, this is a church, so it's built on a crucified form. The shape of the transepts go perpendicular to the tower. These ones. This one. And that one, this line, like this. And I was telling you that what's interesting is that there is a ratio of 2 to 1. So the tower is twice, if not almost, twice as tall as the transepts. This is the left side of the transept, and I believe this is a chapel. It's very bright actually. If you watch this channel for a while, you know that we've been in very, very dark chapels. Like for example, Lichfield was incredibly dark. Maybe this is where you go and confess, I assume. Unfortunately, we can't go and visit that side. It's closed, as you can see. I'm not really sure why. Maybe because it's a bit damaged by the looks of it. Again, you recognize the tiles here, the Roman tiles. And not all, but some of the windows are very well painted, very beautifully painted. Like for example that one, especially because now the sun is on the other side and you can clearly see it. But not all of them are like that. Like for example that window only has a representation of Queen Mary in the middle. I was looking at these tiles, at these plates. I'm sure these are modern by the looks of it. As you can see, this design for sure wasn't that old, or it's not that old. But I'm amazed by how they put together those tiles there, the stone, to fit and make this roof. It's really impressive. Okay, so this one was the military chapel of Saint Michel the Archangel. As you can see, the church doesn't have aisles on the side, neither left, neither right. This is a blocked Saxon doorway, very, very old Saxon doorway. I'm actually not sure if from outside this was a door or not. I mean, I'm not sure if it's only blocked from the inside and you can still see a door outside. I don't remember actually. But it might be the case that both sides are blocked. So old. This must be part of the initial building from 1000 years ago when it was built, because the church was built by the Anglo-Saxons. So, because this is a blocked Saxon doorway, it means that it belonged to it was part of the initial plan of the building. And the nave on this one seems like this is wood. I believe the nave is made of wood. So an Anglo-Saxon church with a wooden nave. So that was St. Mary in Castro Church. I just met the priest of this church, Peter, and he told me that English Heritage, who basically takes care of the castle, they said specifically that they want the church to maintain its original purpose in order to be a church, basically, which means that it's not only a museum. So basically what I'm saying here is that, at least that's what I've been told, if you are in Dover and you visit either Dover Castle or the church on a Sunday at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m, there is a mass here in St. Mary in Castro Church, held by a priest called Peter. So if you want to attend, yeah, just come and see this place, because it's very, very beautiful. It's full of history, and I've heard that, as a side note, there is a chapel in the castle. Somewhere in the castle there is a chapel. You go on some stairs and you then turn left in the keep I'm talking about, the castle, the Dover Castle, which is right there. So there is a chapel, and if you watched our video from Canterbury, you already know about Thomas Becket, and I've been told by Peter that in the first part of December, in that chapel there is a mass specifically to commemorate Thomas Becket. This is basically the door that we've seen when we were in the church, the Anglo-Saxon door. Again, by my estimations, by my assumptions, I believe this was part of the initial structure. So I don't know why this door was blocked, but yeah, we are looking here at a door that's almost 1000 years old or more, if it was part of this church since the beginning. Another interesting thing that maybe I'm not sure I pointed very well so far is that the church has been repaired over and over again along the years. I believe at some point in 1226 King Henry III ordered the repair of the church. However, after a couple of centuries, in the 17th century or 18th century, the church was in such a bad shape that it became a storehouse or a cooperage, if I pronounce correctly, which I believe it refers, from what I know, it refers to the build or the construction of wooden barrels. And later, in somewhere beginning of the 19th century, maybe it was exactly 1801 or 1802, I believe, it became a place to store coal. So for almost 60 years, from 1801 to 1860, the church was just a place to store coal, unfortunately, because it was in such a bad shape. However, during the Victorian era, the church was restored in two occasions, in 1862 and in 1888. And these restorations that took place were done by two of the most famous Gothic architectures of that time. And since then, St. Mary in Castro Church stands still and continues to amaze so many people that come here each year to visit it. I guess we can all agree that today was a very special day. We learned about the history of Dover, starting from the Bronze Age and then Iron Age up until today, and we also walked along the white cliffs of Dover and we enjoyed some amazing views. At the same time, we learned about the achievements of Romans in this area and what was before the Dover Castle, so more than 1000 years ago. We also had a chance to explore the only Roman lighthouse that's still standing in Britain, alongside probably the most representative church in Dover, St. Mary in Castro Church. That being said, thank you for joining me in this exploration. And if you are still here and you want to watch a similar episode about another historic church that we talked about and we visited on this channel, check this video right here and I'll see you there.